Hello, hello. Just waiting to go live on Instagram as well. Here we go. And Facebook. And we're good. All right. So I want to talk about two things today that sound like they contradict each other, but they really don't. So the first thing is that nobody is coming to save your career. Not your agent, not a casting director who loves you, not a coach like me, not some viral moment from a TikTok that you posted, not a lucky audition that changes everything for you. The fact is that you are the leader. You are the CEO, if you will, of this business. You are the one who decides what happens next. You are the one who capitalizes on opportunities. You are the one who gets those opportunities. And if you've been waiting for someone or something to come along and make it work for you, that wait is the thing that's been costing you. The second thing is you should not be doing this alone. And I know those two things can feel like they're pulling in opposite directions. If nobody's coming to save me, then I have to do it myself, right? That's the logical conclusion. And it's the conclusion that a lot of us arrive at. And it's the reason why there are so many talented, hardworking, dedicated actors who are just completely exhausted, completely isolated, and completely stuck. Because doing it yourself does not mean doing it by yourself. Those are completely different things. Clip that. So, what does taking responsibility for your career mean? What does that look like? It means owning your decisions. It means building your strategy, doing the work, showing up every day, whether anyone's watching or not. That part is on you and it will always be on you. But trying to be your own strategist, your own accountability partner, your own feedback loop, your own emotional support system, your own marketing department, and your own coach all at the same time with no structure, no outside eyes looking at your stuff, no community. That's not independence. That is a setup for exactly the kind of spiraling and self-sabotage that we talked about in the last episode. So today is about the space between those two truths, the space where you take full ownership of your career and you let yourself be supported in building it. So this is episode 22 of Powerhouse Conversations. Nobody is coming to save your career, but you shouldn't be doing it alone either. Let's get into it. So before we do, I just want to check and see who we have here. Hey, y'all. Good to see you. Hey, Andrew. Okay. So I want to talk about what doing it alone actually costs. Not how it feels, but what it costs. Because most actors who are kind of running their career solo don't actually think of it as a choice. Like this wasn't a conscious decision. They think of it as just how things are, but it is a choice. And the price is real. So the first cost is blind spots. We talked about this in the last episode. When you're the only person looking at your career, you can't see your own patterns. You can't see that you've been avoiding outreach for 6 months. You can't see that your materials are telling a story that you don't really agree with. You can't see that the strategy that you've been running hasn't changed in like 3 years. Those patterns are kind of invisible to us from the inside looking at ourselves. And so without someone else who's paying attention, those can just kind of go on and on for years. The second cost is slow learning. The learning curve just takes a really long time. When you make a move and it doesn't work, oftentimes you need someone to help figure out why. Like, was it the wrong move or was it the wrong timing? Was it like the wrong target? But without that outside perspective, you're really guessing. And guessing means that a lot of times we make the same mistake multiple times before we figure out what went wrong. On the other hand, an actor who has a coach or a strategic community, they get that feedback in real time. An actor working alone might spend a whole year learning something that could have been solved in a single conversation. And the third cost is decision fatigue. Have you ever just felt like when you're making every single decision about your career by yourself, you just get tired? You have to decide on your own which headshots to use, which classes to take, which agents to target, whether to stay with your rep or leave, whether to invest in that workshop or save the money for something else, whether to reshoot your reel now or wait. Every one of those decisions takes energy. And when you're making all of them alone with no one to bounce ideas off of, the quality of those decisions just kind of degrades over time. Not because you're not smart or capable of making the decisions, because decision making in isolation is genuinely harder than decision making when you have input from people you can trust. Clip that. The fourth cost is emotional. And I'm not talking about the things that you need a therapist for. I'm talking about just the things that come with this career. This career is not easy. We deal with rejection constantly. We deal with silence when we reach out to people. We deal with complete uncertainty. There is financial pressure for a lot of us. And all of this is real. All of it just accumulates. And when you're carrying it by yourself with no one kind of in your corner who genuinely understands what you're going through because they're also going through it, the weight of it starts to kind of eat at your relationship with the career itself. So you start to feel like your joy is fading. You start to feel like your motivation is fading. And the thing that you started doing because you love it starts to feel like a burden. The fifth cost is kind of the most practical one, and I think it's the one that we tend to underestimate the most. When you're doing this alone, you have no leverage. You don't have a community that refers you for things. You don't have friends, peers who mention your name in rooms that you're not there in. You don't have colleagues who see an opportunity and think of you. I just referred a director for a job who's in my scene study community. There's no way she would have known about that, right? When you are operating as a single entity in a system that runs on connections, this industry runs on connections, y'all. So no matter how talented you are, that just means your reach is limited. We talked in episode 15 about how careers are built on relationships and how the actors who build their careers alone are trying to do that relationship building as one person reaching outward. But the actors who build inside a community have dozens of people reaching outward on each other's behalf. And so the math is just like, hello, it's obvious. So if kind of doing this on our own sucks so much, why do so many of us keep doing it? I think there are a few reasons. And I want to just describe them here just in case you can see yourself in one of these, because sometimes it just makes it more obvious. So the first reason is just pride. There's this narrative in our community that the ones who make it are the ones who survive on their own. They're tough enough to survive on their own. They're gritty. They figure it out themselves. And that narrative, it's kind of seductive because it makes our suffering feel like it's this noble thing, right? I don't need help. I'm doing this on my own terms. All I need is a great agent and I can do the rest myself. And then there's something really admirable about that spirit. But when the self-reliance is preventing you from getting the support that would change your trajectory, majorly, it stops being admirable and starts being just kind of stubborn, starts being kind of silly. Now, the second reason, and I've talked to a lot of actors who have felt this way, a lot of us have invested in programs and coaches and communities that did not deliver. So they paid money that they didn't really have, put it on a credit card, borrowed it, whatever, made it happen. And they show up with all this hope and they walk away feeling like it was a complete waste of time and money. And once you've been burned like that, I understand why you might say, I'm not doing this again. I'll just do it myself. But the problem is that one bad experience with support doesn't mean all support is bad. I mean, I know that's obvious, but I just have to say it out loud here. It means that that specific support wasn't the right fit. And so we can't write it all off. We can't sabotage ourselves like that. We have to show up again. And the third reason is that a lot of us don't know what good support really looks like. They've seen some coaches on Instagram with all this hype and manufactured urgency, and like something about it feels off, but they don't really know why. Or they've been in Facebook groups that just turn into complaining sessions or people being really weird. Or they've taken workshops that were all motivation and no strategy at the end of it. And they've concluded that this is what coaching or support means. And so they're just like, I don't need it. And honestly, I get it. Quite frankly, a lot of what's out there for us is just not that good. It's either generic advice that's repackaged with enthusiasm, or it's a lot of information, but there's no help in implementing it. But the answer is not no support, it's the right support. The fourth reason, and this is the deepest one, I think, and that's just fear. When we let someone in to support us, that means that that person is seeing us clearly. That means someone is noticing the patterns that you've been avoiding. They might ask you a question that you don't really want to answer or you don't really want to confront. They might reflect back to you the thing that you've been doing for a long time isn't working and it's time to try something different. And that kind of honesty is valuable, of course, but it's also really uncomfortable. And if you're just doing this on your own, that means you can stay protected from that, from having to deal with that. Clip that. So what does good support actually look like then? Right? Hi, Naveen. Hi, Robert. What does good support actually look like? The first thing is it's got to fit the stage where you are, right? Is the support designed for the actor who you are right now? You don't want to go into a community that's built for beginners if you're not a beginner. You don't want to go into a community that's built for like actors who are series regulars if you're not booking co-stars yet, right? So one of the things that I hear from actors a lot is that they feel kind of in between. They're past the beginner stage. They don't need to be told how to set up an actor's access profile. But they're also not at the level where they're getting consistent enough auditions at the level where they want to be working. And they just need to like refine their technique or something. They're in this middle space where they've outgrown the entry level stuff, but they haven't broken through to that next level stuff. And almost nobody is speaking to that in between level. So when you feel like you are the most advanced person in the room, that's not great. But if there's nobody in the room who's above you either, that's not great. You need someone who can see where you are clearly, something that can see where you are clearly and kind of build from there. The second thing is that the support needs to be safe. Can you actually be honest in this space? Can you say something like, you know what? I haven't sent a single outreach email in 2 months, and not be shamed for that? Can you share that you're struggling financially without being judged for that? Can you ask a question that might sound basic without feeling stupid for asking that question? This is a precondition. And I want to say something really specific. If a coach is using shame or pressure or public call outs as motivational tools, that is not safe. That is someone who's using your vulnerability to maintain their authority, and you should leave. Clip that. The third thing is accountability. It needs to involve real accountability. Not just how it's going, like I'm checking in on how it's going. I'm talking about a real specific structured accountability where someone is tracking what you said you were going to do, and then they're following up on whether you actually did it. So, we've already talked about how self-sabotage operates when we're kind of in the dark about stuff. Accountability is the light that we can bring to that. It's the structure that keeps your patterns visible. It needs to be consistent. It needs to come from a loving place. It needs to come from someone who understands your goals, and it needs to happen regularly as a practice. The next thing that real support does is it really needs to involve people who are doing the work beside you, right alongside you. So there are peers around you, not just a coach who's talking at you, but other actors who are at a similar stage, who are working on similar challenges, who are doing the same kind of work. People who you can learn from and be inspired by, and you guys can help each other as well. I've really observed inside the table, as an example, that peer connections often produce as much value as the coaching itself, because you share resources, you offer perspectives, you hire each other, you refer each other to agents. It's like you have those friendships that form, that become part of your circle of influence in a way that outlasts any program. And then the last thing is that it needs to go beyond information. Like, let's be honest, like you could go to AI and get any information that you need. So this needs to be about implementation, not just information. If you've been watching this whole series, you have more information about how to build an acting career than most actors will encounter this year. You have frameworks, you have tools, you have language. But if you're just consuming information and you're not doing anything with it, how different is that than just entertainment? The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it is where most of us just kind of live. But good support closes that gap. It doesn't just teach you what to do, it helps you actually do it week after week, month after month, with someone watching and caring about whether it's happening. Clip that. So when you allow yourself to be supported, all these things change. The speed, the things that would have taken you a year to figure out on your own get resolved in weeks, days. Clarity changes. Things don't feel so tangled up anymore. So the career problems that have kind of blended into the money problems, that have blended into the relationship problems, all that can get untangled with the right support structure and help you see that there's actually 3 things going on. Let's solve this one over here first. Then let's do this over here, right? And that clarity alone is worth so much. And the third thing that changes is just your relationship with yourself. This is the one that a lot of people are surprised by, I think. But when you're surrounded by people who see you clearly, who reflect your strengths back to you, who celebrate your wins, who hold you through the hard stretches, something in you just can kind of calm down a little bit. That self-doubt gets quieter because you just stopped carrying everything by yourself. And there is a huge relief in that. And the fourth thing that changes is your network. Suddenly, you're not just one person. You're part of a community where people are looking out for you. So someone sees an opportunity, they think about you. Someone meets a casting director and they're like, ooh, you need to meet this person. Their show would be great for you, whatever, right? Someone's developing a project and you're the person they think of for a role. So all of a sudden you're receiving offers, right? All of that is so helpful. So I want to take a moment today for those of you who are looking for support, to describe what the table is more fully than I have before. Because everything that we talked about in the series, the positioning, the marketing plan, the circle of influence, the audition ritual, the rep relationships, the money conversation, the patterns of self-sabotage, all of it is what we do together inside this community. So this is my year-long coaching community for actors who are just done figuring it out alone, just done. So inside you have me as your coach, but you also have a community of actors who are doing the same work alongside you. You have the monthly marketing plans, the accountability structures. You'll create your target list. You'll do your casting profile audits. You have real strategic work that is designed for where you are right now in your career, not a level below you or a level above you, but where you actually are. It also includes my full Agent Alchemy program for actors who are actively looking for representation that's really aligned. And the structure is built for actors with real lives. We are busy, okay? So if you miss a session, you're not behind. The framework flexes so you actually use what you invest in, even in the weeks when your life is just like really loud. And it's a space that's genuinely safe. You can be honest about what's working and what isn't. You can name the things you've been avoiding. You can ask for help without feeling like you're admitting that you're crazy or weak or whatever. Asking for help is not weakness, it is strategic. So I'm not going to tell you that the industry is the same as it's always been. It's not. But it's also not over. In this community, we talk about what works for actors who are in it and who are paying attention. And I'm going to help you build it step by step with real support around you. So if what you've been learning has resonated with you, the table is where we go deeper, not with more information, but with implementation, with accountability, with community, with nervous system support, all that good stuff. So the link to that is in the YouTube description and also in the Instagram link in bio. So take a look when you're ready. So I want to open it up to questions. Of course, if you have questions now, I can answer them. And if you are watching the replay of this, throw them in the comments. Let me know what's on your mind. Let me just check. Hi, Michelle. Okay, so here's what I want to leave you with today. You are not behind. Wherever you are right now is exactly where you are supposed to be, and it's a place you can build from. Also, you are not broken. Whatever patterns have been keeping you stuck are not evidence of some fundamental flaw. They're evidence of a system that nobody's really taught you to navigate. And how are you supposed to know that? And you're not alone. Even if you feel like you've been running your career alone for years, even if you've never said to another human being how hard this actually is, you are not the only one going through this. There are actors all over the world who feel exactly what you feel, who want exactly what you want, and who are ready to build along someone who understands. Nobody is coming to save your career. That part is true and always will be. But the version of this where you do this completely alone with no support, no feedback, no community, no one watching out for you, that does not have to be your story anymore at all. So, if you've been trying to do it that way for a while now, you already know how that goes. Maybe it's time to try differently. Here for you when you're ready.